This is Thomas Miles, nephew Tommy from the Steve Harvey Morning Show. As a radio personality, comedian, actor, and producer, I know what type of hard work and dedication it takes to make an impact in the world of arts and entertainment. MPAC Performing Arts Collective, a nonprofit for visual and performing arts, is doing just that. MPAC's mission is to cultivate the interests of visual and performing arts by exposing, educating, and entertaining. MPAC is dedicated to the formation of avenues into the professional world of arts and entertainment through several of its programs, including It's a Rap, Playhouse Theater, and MPAC Jazz. Through these programs, MPAC has launched film festivals, TV forums, music symposiums, comedy series and showcases, jazz shows, theater productions, acting and comedy workshops, and much, much more. All in an effort to create platforms for emerging talent and create access to industry insiders in an effort for those seeking careers in arts and entertainment to be successful. As a proud member of its advisory board, I would like you to support MPAC as a volunteer or as a donor. Please visit impact-arts.org today.
Hi there, my name is Jeannie Huang, and I am guest hosting the MPAC Virtual Speaker Series. And I was told by Tanya today that my cup, it's actually Moderno Luxury Living, but it looks like an MPAC cup. So shout out to MPAC. I'm super excited to do this today because it is, today's topic is about mentorship. And it's a beautiful Saturday morning here in California. It's I guess, afternoon in Houston, but I wanted to talk to you about Greg Carter because he has been a huge mentor for me ever since I started acting. And so this topic is perfect for the both of us. So Greg is a multi-hyphenate. He is a director, he's a producer, he's a writer. He basically does everything on a production except for the catering. And we're so fortunate to have him because he is in pre-production right now for a film in LA. So we're dragging him out for an hour to talk to us. So, Greg, are you there?
Hello, hello.
I call him G Money, but Greg and I have gone way back. We've been friends and colleagues, and he's been my mentor for a super long time. So that's why this topic is going to be perfect for us. So, Greg, I mentioned that I am you're my mentor to me, but everyone has a mentor. So who in your film career is your mentor?
Well, it basically goes down to three people, I would suppose. The first person would have been my parents. They did a really great job of giving me the inspiration to follow my dreams into filmmaking and kind of dabble back and forth between being an engineer and a filmmaker. And then the next big person I would say is Charles Gordon. Charles Gordon was a Pulitzer Prize winning playwright. He wrote the play. He won a Tony and a Pulitzer for the play No Place to Be Somebody back in I think it was 1977. And in the later parts of his career, he was a professor at Texas A&M University, where I went to school up in College Station. And I guess that would be it. I would like to say also Florette Fernando, because I'm also a professor at the University of Houston. I teach in two colleges, the College of Arts and also the the Valente School of Communication. So those people kind of inspired me to push myself and to go back and get my doctorate, and but just to push myself and continue to be someone who is a leader and someone who can be a mentor to younger folk.
Now, it's funny because when you mention mentor, you usually don't think of parents, but you mention your parents. Usually when you say mentor, you think of colleagues. And it's interesting because all the mentors that you mentioned are from academics. How do you feel as a filmmaker? Do you want to pass on what you've learned to future aspiring filmmakers?
Well, one of the things I try to do is be very hands-on with the direction of my career. I know there's a lot of people who count on, proxies such as managers and agents and people to put things in a certain direction. But for me, it's all about making sure that I stop and, I guess they say, smell the roses. Uh, you have to understand about, as far as my career is concerned and what the way I see things, I'm on a path and on a journey. And you should understand that when you're on a path and a journey, whether you want to be a director or a writer or producer or a doctor or a lawyer or whatever it is you want to be, you're not on that journey by yourself. There are other people who are tangential to your success and are your failure sometimes. And you should take those as really important things that you should integrate into who you are trying to become. I think it's really important that if you're in your mode of where you're trying to become a director, you are, such as you find people who can be mentors, but you also need to find mentees. So people who can give me insight into what I'm doing and how to sharpen the saw, as they say, and continue to get better. But what people don't realize is that by being a teacher, by being a mentor, you actually become, you ingrain those values that you've learned from your mentor into yourself. It provides you a mechanism to have that reinforcement. And I know that there's a lot of times when you're out there and you're in your career and you're having conversations with people that might be a little negative or might not be the best. But you know what? You can learn lessons from people who are really, really good and talented that you aspire to be like. But you can also learn lessons from people who are struggling a bit or who are not necessarily someone who you want to be like. You can learn from both of those people and then create for yourself your own paradigm of how your world will work and how things go.
Do you find like, of course, the times have changed. So back when you were a filmmaker, mentoring was much different than today because now, today, with AI and the digital age, do you find that mentorship has changed or how people go about getting mentors or finding mentors, or how does it affect their journey today as opposed to back then?
Well, I think there's lots of places where if you are trying to become a director or writer, director, producer, or whatever it is you want to be, there are lots of places where you can find information that can help you. But I do think, um, as someone who's a Christian man, I do feel that there's something that is unique about that experience when you can have it with someone in particular, the human connection. I think that's important because those values are intrinsic that you are trying to imbue upon, your mentees, the people that you're trying to provide mentorship with. You mentioned AI, and I do want to say that I think that AI is a good tool, but I think because AI does not have the context of time or understanding human life, or how you gauge things, it makes it for a very superficial kind of knowledge. Uh, I jokingly say sometimes that when I line produce, I'm a writer, director, producer, but when I don't write, direct, or produce, I line produce on movies, which is basically the person who is responsible for kind of building the show and making things run. And uh, what people like to think sometimes, if you're going to line produce, that, hey, I just bought movie magic scheduling, I know how to do a budget. That doesn't make you a line producer. It makes you someone who knows how to use movie magic. You can make a budget, but doesn't mean you know what those numbers really mean, how to make hard decisions that can give you what you want, but but then sometimes you have to make hard decisions to just get what you need. And these are the things that happen when we, I think, put too much reliance on technology. I think it's important as, someone who is a mentor, that when I am having conversations with younger folk or with people who are seeking to learn knowledge from me, that that I do try to be more than just someone that passes on a skill set. I'm trying to pass on a way uh, of seeing the world, a way of working, a way of trying to engage with the people you got to work with. So I think that it is really important that as someone who is a professor at University of Houston, but as someone who is also a filmmaker and works with uh, teams all the time that are sometimes new, that I walk the walk and I talk the talk. So I think that's an important part of being a mentor. It's not just passing on knowledge, but it's also passing on values, how to be someone that people aspire to be like. I'll try
Don't
your
you
best.
think don't, don't you think that today with technology, it seems like, you know how they always say that kids today are really raised more uh, by technology, by their phones and what they see on social media. Because of that, don't you think it's more important now than ever to have a mentor? Because it's almost like back then, you know, we were dealing with people and now we're dealing with technology. So don't you think now it's more important than ever to have a physical person as a mentor?
I think it is. I do feel that for whatever reason, we put a lot of reliance on being independent. And, this is the way that a lot of people take on their it's the way that people take on their lives and in social aspects. I would say that because that we've had, I would say, a good 15, 20 years of social media, you would think that it would have brought people together, but I would say people are lonelier than they've ever been, and more isolated. And I do feel that we've lost something, somehow or another. Relationships, whether it's between a man and a woman or co-workers, have somewhat become transactional. And that's a pity, I think, because I think it's really important that the human contact that is needed to kind of grow into an individual that is fully formed, that can be someone that can contribute to society. We're missing that. And I think that's why you see so many detached people do crazy things like shoot up a school or do things like that. We've become so detached. So I think that if you can, you really want to try to find ways to, um, if you're going to be a mentor, uh, try to be as helpful as you can, and be as reliable. It's funny we're using the internet to broadcast this interview, so we are kind of bound to technology. But here I am preaching against uh, preaching for the virtues of contact, human contact. But I do think that again, these are tools that we didn't have before that are good to have now.
So in a way, technology is a good and a bad. But let's say you're mentoring someone. What would you say is the most important thing that you try to ingrain in future filmmakers when you're mentoring them?
Well, I would want them to understand that, and a lot of times when I'm talking to my students at University of Houston, or whether I'm, dealing with people who are, attending seminars like this, I would say that the biggest thing is understand the value of connecting with your, people who you're, I guess, people in your cohort, as we would say in at U of H, people who are on the track that you are, and don't be afraid to share. I think, so many times, people say, "Man, I wrote this really great script," and I said, "Really? Okay, cool. How do you know it's great?" "Oh, because I just do." I said, "Well, has anyone read it?" "Well, I can't let them know I read it. They might try to steal my idea." I'm like, you have to be able to understand that, um, ideas are just that. Um, you know, do you want to be someone who sees your ideas get made, or do you want to be someone who just has a great idea? When I run into people all the time, at family functions or wherever, I say, they come to, "Hey, you make movies. I got a great idea for a movie." I'm like, God, I hear that so many times. But you got to be able to collaborate. I think that's important. If you can't collaborate, then more than likely your career will stagnate because you don't get to see your ideas pushed and pulled and stretched and have them uh, get an opportunity to breathe and take a life of their own. Um, I've made probably over 50 films and TV shows, documentaries. And because of this, I begin to understand that, it's really not about the actual great script or even the great actors or even have a bunch of money to make the movie. It's about the human beings who are behind the scenes that are helping you make that come true. No one, no one ever starts out saying, I want to make the shittiest movie possible. I want to make the worst movie I possibly can. Well, or maybe some people do, but most people want to make something great. And something that happens along the way deters them from that. And a lot of times it's because of the fact that, like you open, you know, you can't collaborate with people. You can't take critical comments, and because of that, your work doesn't have a chance to grow, and that I think is a travesty.
Well, it sounds like you're really coming from an academic mentorship. So when you start off mentoring, of course, you're in a classroom teaching students, but now, like you said, you're finding that you're mostly on Zoom calls, you're doing virtual. Does that really change how you connect with your students or how you connect with people that you're trying to pass on your knowledge of what you know in the film industry?
I don't think so. I think what I try to do is because, like for instance, I don't know how many people watch this thing, but there are going to be a lot of people who know my face and my name, and they'll walk up to me and say, Greg Carter, I'm so and so. Hey, I don't know them. I think it comes down to being able to trust um, the people that you're communicating with. I mean, I don't know a lot of different things that can make me, clam up when I'm talking to people. Um, some people, if you're talking to them about what they need to do, they can be shut down because they're like, I've never had anyone tell them that that's what needs to happen. That is a function of the fact that they've been kind of living in this sheltered situation. So I do think that the technology helps because people can see me, I can talk, I can connect, but not necessarily from the standpoint that I can really guide you. I think what it means is that, you know, I try to do more than just talk about film when I'm mentoring, whether it's my class or whether it's younger filmmakers. Um, I try to imbue some of my view on life, and I think that makes it more of a relationship between a mentor and a mentee and less of this transactional kind of situation where you give me uh, resources and I give you my knowledge and then that's it. You know, now it's a hard journey, so you have to be able to do a lot of things on your own, but that's just the nature of it. So the context of the technology does, mean that as a mentor, then you have to do a little bit more. You just can't get on the video and talk and that's it. You have to be willing to accept that role and the responsibility. It's just like in that Spider-Man movie, with great power comes great responsibility. And you have to really look at ways to be aggressive in passing on your knowledge as a mentor. Can't just be, hey, I did my part. I spoke on the impact thing. No, you have to be aggressive and really get that information out there.
So you were very fortunate. You said you had a really good upbringing with your parents. What happens when someone comes up to you and asks you for advice and they don't have the same background that you have? Have you ever been in a situation where someone comes up and I guess to say, have you ever clammed up not knowing how to give advice because they might have asked you something that you're not familiar with?
I think the thing is that I've never had a situation like that arise. I've been very fortunate that, over the course of trying to learn and grow as a human being, there's certain things that I have kind of learned in the context of things. Um, and so that translates to whether or not the person I'm talking to wants to learn film, whether they want to be a theologian, whether they want to be a teacher or academic, these things translate. And I think a big part of that is time. Um, we all are born with the knowledge that our time is limited and we have so many things that we want to do and accomplish. And so, you're fighting you're fighting what is the inevitable, while at the same time trying to make a mark for yourself and trying to figure things out. So when I do have the opportunity to talk to someone, it's not just always as just a filmmaker. Even though it's a film course, we might have again, I don't liken myself to Paul. I'm not a theologian. I just mentioned that a second ago, but I do try to pass on things that have nothing to do with film, as well as things that have to do everything with film. I think that's important. If you think about, you know, I was talking to a friend of mine, and he peeped some knowledge on me. He said, "Think about this." He said, "How old are you?" I said, "I ain't gonna say how old I am," but so I said, "Okay, yeah." He said, "All right." So the average human being lives to be 75 years old, maybe 80. So if you took a long strip of paper and you put these numbers, you number from 1 to 80, and you take from where you are right now, whether you're 25, 35, 55, and toward it, and you count how many years you actually have left before you reach 80, you'd be profoundly awed, I think. That's how much time you have.
And
And
all that time
so,
is spent sleeping too. So
yeah. I mean, you spend
that's
a lot
even
of
less
time
time.
sleeping. Yeah. I mean, I can't go into how much time in a day you spend in waste, but that's not a lot of time. And so it's the reason why people sometimes feel so desperate to
To make their
succeed and
mark
do
on
to make their
time.
mark, and they'll do whatever they can to do it without necessarily thinking, should they do that? Okay. They want to do it, but should you do it? I like a little bit of Eastern philosophy, and if you think about something like a human life attributed to a wave, and a wave comes in from the ocean and it's heading toward the shore. Now you can measure the wave. It has height, it has speed, it moves at a certain pace, and then that wave, when it hits the shore, it disappears with a splash or whatever, and then that wave is gone forever. There will never be a wave that looks exactly like it, that will have the exact height, weight, everything. There will never be a wave like it. Going back into the history of when the ocean started to when the oceans disappear, there will never be a wave exactly like it. But here's the thing: what consisted of the wave, the water, the brine, it doesn't disappear. It actually gets recycled and goes into the possibility of creating another wave that's coming in. So I think that's how we have to see our life. It's a wave, and you have to be able to catch that wave as it's moving and ride it, because that wave will never come again. There will be never be another Junie Hong. There will never be another Greg Carter. And what I like to think is that when it's over, when it all has come to an end, for me as a human being, when this mortal frame has went away, that I have become the elements of the next wave that's coming. And that's where we should be, I think. But I think we do spend so much time worried about when our time comes to an end and trying to take the time that we have. And but it was never your time to begin with. It was always, you were always meant to become part of the next wave that's coming. And so that's the way I see the way I contribute. It sometimes can be a little painful because you do spend a lot of time, you know, wasting it with people who probably ain't worth being the next wave that's coming. But that's not your decision to decide. All you can decide is do with the time that you have. And I think that's why it's really important as someone who is a mentor, as a film mentor, to do more than just be a person who's all about film. They don't people don't need me for that. They do need my information, but there's going to be some things on the path they're just going to have to learn themselves. I hope that I can pass something on that's more meaningful than just making a movie.
So you know how you were speaking about we're not going to be here forever. So you said one of your mentors is of course your mom, and you know she's passed. So now that she's gone, when you come up with any problems in just in your life and in your career, how much of that influence from her has affected your thinking as far as just getting through problems that you have?
Well, my mother was a major influence on me, major, tremendous. My mother was a, uh, a doc. She had a doctorate degree, highly educated woman. Um, of course, she was those out there who were in the divine knowledge. My mother was an AKA, but she always taught me that you should push, and then push some more. I was never satisfied with becoming a great Black filmmaker. I thought that was pointless. I just want to be a good filmmaker, whether I'm white, black, green, whatever. I strive to be, someone that she would be proud of, and that was hard because she had such high standards. She she would leave me to my own vices to kind of figure it out, but the goal post was set really high. All my brothers and sisters all went to college and graduated. I went to Texas A&M. My sister went to University of Texas. What a crime! She could have went to Texas A&M, but but my brothers went to U of H. So it's just like one of those things where that was not a thing that was like, oh, okay, we're going to try to work with. No, that was the standard that was the baseline that you had to start from. I was really happy that a couple years back, about a year or so ago, I was able to finish my doctorate. Um, and that's because my mother was such an inspiration. My father, on the other hand, is just his. One thing that we don't do, or we don't do it much of, is we don't teach. And this is, I'm getting a bit of a soapbox. We don't teach young men how to be men in a way that benefits society like the way we used to. And I'm not perfect. It's a unattainable goal that you try to strive, but it's always a strive. But we've kind of collectively turned our backs on each other. And what has happened is that our young men are not getting the benefit of being able to learn how to be leaders and learn how to be fathers. Um, and that, I think, is the one thing that makes me a little sad, is that you know I I don't want to be the last of a kind where you know success is guaranteed if you work hard. I don't want to be where apathy has become the modus operandi for any person who's under 30 years of age, or under 40 or whatever. That sense that there's no hope, no matter what you do, no matter how hard you work, you're going to always be left with nothing. And I think that is sad. I think we need to do things to embrace and lift up our young men, because they don't necessarily have the opportunity to make a mark in this world the way that they used to. Used to be that if you were a young man, if you had a family and you took care of your family, and you loved your wife and you did the things that you were supposed to do, you were doing something really fantastic and you were acknowledged and respected. And now, for whatever reason, we've turned that on its head. It's no longer fashionable to be stoic and to be resolute to doing things that are right, but hard, that you get no recognition for. And I think that's the one thing that I see right now is that we are in the middle of a generation that, for the most part, has no hope. And that, again, is not something that I plan to take lying down. You know, it seems if you're younger now that everything's been invented, everything's created for you and put in front of you. And why do this? Why work hard? Why strive? Because in the end, you can't create anything new that hasn't been created. But I want people to know that you shouldn't feel that you are just the sum of your education or your family or whatever. You're so much greater than that. And that is the most important thing that we as mentors should do. It's the stuff that you can never get from an AI. It's the stuff you can never get from a computer. So we are so much more than that. And I think that's what we have to do. We have to find a way to give people hope and that and don't let apathy destroy you. If you spend so much time looking to the abyss and you're hopeless, then don't be surprised when the abyss looks back at you. I think we need to do these things like putting music back in the schools. We have to have outlets for people to create. It's not just about passing a test so you can move on. We have to do things that let people connect to their humanity. If I was talking to a class a little bit ago and I said this to them and I said, everybody knows that, if you go back into France, in southern France, they had all these cave paintings. And if you think about this, 50,000 years ago, they had a structure of a tribe and there was a leader. And I'm sure there was someone who was a spiritual leader. And there was someone who gathered the food. And there was someone who hunted. And there was someone who took care of the children. And there was all these different roles and niches that were kind of created in what was early, uh, I guess, pediment of a society. But in the end, after 50,000 years pass, the only thing that's left of those acorn seeds of society, those cave people, is the art that is on the walls of the cave, which truly means this: art, being a filmmaker, making music, it's the one true thing that lasts forever. I think it's truly important that we make sure that our children, our children's children have the opportunity to embrace who they are, not only through their education, not only through social structures, but through art. It is somewhat therapeutic in a lot of ways. And I think that's important because, we've lost something, I think. So anyway, I do think that that's part of, when I talk to young people and whether it's a young man or a young woman, and I'm trying to provide guidance that you do something outside of. We talk about more than just making movies. I think you have to talk about life. That's important.
Right, because when you started filmmaking, you know, mentoring was much different than it is today. So, like you were saying, in today's society, everyone's isolated, everyone's secluded. How do you explain to someone in this today about networking, about the importance of going out and being social and talking to people and connecting with people when majority of people today, they really just want to communicate by text. They don't want to pick up the phone. They don't want to go out and meet someone in person. How do you communicate to them that it's so important to have that physical interaction?
Well, I think the thing is, and I've had this problem. Had to tell this to my son and to my daughter too. Is that when you're communicating with people, there was a time where the communication could only be face to face. It was an idea predicated with the understanding that communication is more than just the words coming out of my mouth. It's also how I look, my reception to the words. Um, I'm a big fan of Stephen Covey, and one of the things that he says is seek first to understand, then be understood. Well, that's one problem with texting and social media and deep direct messaging and all that stuff. You lose part of the communication, which is the physicality of it all. You can, you know, uh, you can think about just a message, right? That you might text somebody. Uh, if I say, okay, I'm going to uh, kill this, and you text that, it could mean several different things, depending on where you coming from. You finna kill it. What? Somebody did something to you? What happened? Or it could mean, hey, I'm going to do great on this test or whatever. I mean, that's a bit of hyperbole, but you get what I'm saying. You lose something when you don't have the human component, the face-to-face component of actually communicating with someone and talking to them from a perspective of two humans without all this stuff between you. Um, it's the reason why when the most important person at the top of in any organization is not the person at the top of the organization. No, 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 no. The most important person is the person that brings information to the person at the top of the organization. They can do so much damage or they can do so much to help, depending on what their agenda is. So you have to be very careful. When I give a perfect example, um, I understand one thing. The most important person on my film set is the drivers in hair and makeup. And you're like, wait, I don't understand. Well, because if you think about who sees your talent that you got to direct on set first, it's your driver that picks them up from the hotel or from where they're going, or either it's the makeup and hair person because they're the person that sees your talent first. If they're in a bad mood, I can't stand this movie. Greg Carter ain't paying me enough money. I really don't pay people enough money. And they bitching and they complaining and they saying that as they doing the hair of the person that's doing it's gonna be in your movie. Are the drivers driving your person? He said, man, I can't stand Greg Carter. I wish he gave me more money. Then guess what? They get to set in a bad attitude. Or they have confusion. What you really want is to have harmony. So you got to understand it's the person that brings the information to the person at the top of an organization that's the most important. It sets the tone for everything. So you got to be very careful about who you put in your organization between you and the people you got to do business with. Messaging means so much. So that's why I tell people, if you're going to have the ability to do a job or whatever you're being hired to do, whenever you can, try to meet in person. And then if you can't meet in person, meet on the phone. And if you can't talk on the phone, if you can't do a video call, talk on the phone. If you can't just talk on the phone, the last thing you should do is try to text or direct or do an email because it doesn't imbue the other communication that you're trying to get through, that you get through your face and through your eyes and your posture when you're talking to people.
What are some of the challenges that you have in mentoring aspiring filmmakers today? Like, what is the number one advice that they ask you for today?
So you what? The number one advice they ask me for are the problems I have with mentoring. I guess it goes hand in hand. Okay, so uh, I've had this problem with a lot of young people I've worked with um, on film sets, young directors and writers and producers. And I think what it is that, and I mentioned this earlier, is that they don't seem to have the ability to communicate with each other in a way where they can benefit each other. In other words, there's so much tribalism. I know that there
I
are a
think that
couple of
also
young,
comes from social media.
pardon?
Do you think that also comes from social media? You said
I
try.
don't know if I don't know if it comes from social media as much as it goes back to the idea that you have limited time and people are always feeling like someone's trying to steal their best ideas or they can't trust when they give them creative criticism because uh they're just hating or whatever. uh my biggest thing is it's very hard for people to work together because everybody feels like they know everything. That is the problem. I mean, I there's an old saying, and it's true. It's hard to fill a glass that's already full. When they feel like they know everything, they're already full. You can't give me nothing else. What can I give you? I can't give you anything. You don't, you from your perspective, and that's what. And even me as a person who's a little bit older, I have to. I do things in a very rigid way. Sometimes I have to be. I'm a Taurus, so you know, I guess I could be a little bit bullheaded, but I do things in a very rigid way, and that people don't understand. Well, why don't you do this or do that? Well, because I found that this works best. Not necessarily there can't be a better way. I have to be open to new ideas, but I have found that sometimes what happens is that there's not necessarily a map to go from point A to point B. There might be multiple ways. It's like when you get into your car and you put an address in your navigation, it gives you 5 different ways to go from point A to point B. So you have to understand that there are many ways to get to the destination. That's why what I said earlier was it's not about uh, the destination, it's about the journey. How do you take the journey? And so if you're trying to communicate with someone and you feel like you know everything, or if you're trying to communicate with someone and they feel like they know everything, then you are at an impasse and you can't necessarily help. And that's one thing I would say that I try to do with a lot of the younger filmmakers in the H-Town area. Houston, I tried to provide my mentorship, but a lot of times people don't want to listen because they like, oh, you just do them movies over there. You just you're okay. And it'd be like, yes, and I'm like, okay, I tried my best. What good is it to have an expert around if you don't listen to the expert advice? But that's just part of the situation, I guess. So you just have to kind of
So,
expect
so
that.
let's just say you're old school, right?
Mhm.
What do you do to update yourself to keep up with the trends and the technology so that you can continue to mentor aspiring filmmakers of the future?
Oh, like I said, you have to be aggressive. You have to be aggressive about technology, understanding how things work. You can't allow yourself to become dated, rigid. That's a very difficult thing because when you get to a certain age and you achieve a certain level of comfort, you don't feel like it's necessary to do all the things that you got to do to, you know, grow because you've kind of gotten to a place where you're happy with your career, and that can be, a little problematic in itself. So I try to do my best to make sure that I always am looking at this from um, as they say, the 40,000 foot view. You have to look at these problems when you're at the 40,000 foot view, as I gave my description, that example, you can see multiple paths to the same destination. It's only when you're on a two-dimensional plane and you're crawling, you don't understand that around that rock there's a jagged drop. Maybe you should go the long way around. You can't see that, but that's okay, because even if you don't see that drop and you fall, you should be able to learn something from that. And so the only thing I'm trying to do is give people knowledge, but sometimes they have to go through it themselves to get the knowledge, and that's just the reality of human beings. So, but that I would say that would be that's one of the challenges of.
So I don't really need to read your bio because I know a lot about your career already. But one of the things that you did was you were teaching a class or classes at U of H, and you were actually having, I don't want to call it an internship, but you were doing a film at the same time that you were teaching the class. So you were bringing on your classroom students to actually, I guess, be PAs on the production. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Well, part of what I tried to do when I got over to University of Houston was not just be, a teacher, an adjunct professor. I wanted to be someone that created the new ways of teaching. And one of the things that I thought that was really important was to give students the opportunity to actually be on a film set. Um, People who know me know that we haven't been working for the last couple of years because of the strikes, uh, and hopefully we'll know something about this new strike that could happen with IOTC sooner than later. And then once we know that that's done, Hollywood would really open back up and we can get back to work. But one of the things that I thought was important, I have a deal. My company Nexus has a deal with Paramount Pictures, and with Jamie Foxx, Jamie Foxx's company, Foxhole. A good friend of mine over there is Tatari Turner, and what we try to do is when I first got the deal and I could make these movies for MTV and VH1, um, I wanted to make sure that again, my journey is not just about me; it's about others. So I went to uh, the dean over at the School of Arts, uh, Florette Fernando at University of Houston, as well as um, the person, I forgot her, my name misses me right now, but she's over the Valente School of Communications. And I said, hey, can we create some kind of situation where students can work on a film set and get credit? Because I thought it was really important that we give them those skill sets so that they can be ready to make movies. I don't want them to be able to go to a movie set and their education is more aligned with journalism, less than actual skills working on a film set. I wanted our students to be able to be competitive with the students who went to schools like AFI or USC, UCLA, Tisch, University of Texas. So we created this program where students could come and work on our movie set. And we did that successfully for the last 2 years. Students could come and work on the movie set. They earn credit. They could have a choice to work in the AD department. That's with the first AD. They could work in grip and electric, sound, hair and makeup, the art department, dressing sets. That was part of what we were doing, is giving young people an opportunity to learn from seasoned professionals. And that was not the beginning and the end of it. I would actually bring these people that I work with on my movies into the classroom to talk to the students. And again, that's for me, that's an important part of my journey. Understanding my journey is not just about me, but it's about helping other people. So that's what I did. And hopefully, God willing, we get the green light once we know for certain there's not going to be a strike with IOTC, and we can start making movies again. Um, so that's what that's about. It was a mentorship program based around internship, but also giving students at University of Houston ability to earn credit. But that wasn't even enough for me. The second year, we did a movie called Hip Hop Family Christmas Wedding. Of course, Jamie Foxx was an executive producer, along with Atari Turner and myself. Of course, wrote and directed. But we were able to get students from Texas Southern to come on the set too. Not just U of H students, but Texas Southern University students too. So we do this later this year, if everything, God willing, everything happens. I plan on expanding that to having kids from Prairie View, HCC, all schools getting the benefit of having their students work on a big budget movie set where they can learn with seasoned professionals and get ready for the next phase of their career. So that for me is something that I want to continue to do. It's an important part of it. And we're actually right now, we just got approved. We're developing a film program at the University of Houston. This would be a graduate degree certificate. And so students who are now working on a graduate degree can get a specialty in film. And so that's something that we just got greenlit by the Board of Regents just a few weeks ago. So we're going to have our first cohort start in the fall of 2024. We're in the process of the funding and everything, but we've had some great conversations with some people, including Paramount and others, 50 Cent and some other people about being involved with it. So I'm very excited about what's going to happen in the future. I have to decide what's more fulfilling for me, to be a filmmaker that makes the idea or being a teacher who passes on that knowledge. I guess I got to find a happy medium between both. So I'd
So
love to have that.
I have two quick questions, two last questions for you. One, you said you're trying to decide if you want to pursue the education or the filmmaking. The feedback that you get from your students when you do these, I want to call them co-op because they're studying, but they're also on hands on set. What kind of feedback do they give you, and does that influence whether or not you say, hey, this is what I want to do for the rest of my career, is really just to be involved with these students and teach?
Well, I'm going to answer that question. There was a question that came in from Tanya from the audience. Can someone be a part of your mentorship who is not in college? Absolutely, absolutely. I would want to express that once we get ready to get started. If you follow me on Instagram or social media, I will always post about when things are getting ready to follow, getting ready to jump off. So if you're not a student at either school, but you want to get that knowledge, you can get an opportunity to work on set with me. It's just a matter of, I always pull that information. Now, back to your question, Junie. So we try to sharpen the saw the best way we can. When we started the program, it was during COVID time. So, there were a lot of, things that we had to do to be proactive to make sure people were protected. But now that we are a little bit more wide open, we're hoping that we can do the things that allow students to even get more into it. I think that there's a big gap in knowledge which comes from um, uh, not knowing how to use the tools of the trade. Like some people say, hey, I want to write a script, but they don't know how to use Final Draft or Movie Magic. I want to budget my movie, but they don't know how to use Excel or Movie Magic budgeting to create a budget. They don't know how to they want to create a schedule. But they don't know how to use Movie Magic scheduling or use Showbiz scheduling. So that's a company called EP that creates that. So these are the things that I really hope that we can do as we continue, is not only teach people how to work the skills that you need on set, but also how to use the tools of the trade. That's very important. And that's something that is sometimes overlooked in a lot of the academic um, in the academic arenas, because we don't necessarily have people that teach people how to use screenwriting software or scheduling software or budgeting software. That's an important thing. So that's as well as the skills on set. That's an important thing if you want to have growth.
So last question for you. Based on your mentors, what is the the most important piece of advice that they've given you that you want to share with aspiring filmmakers in the future?
I would say don't be afraid to fail. Failure is only failure if you don't learn from it, or if you get knocked down and you don't get up. If you get up, you'll only be stronger. And don't be afraid to say what you don't know. Everybody wants to get on set and be like, hey, I know I'm a first AD, I'm this, I'm a this, I'm a that. And you want to try to let people know you think you know everything and you don't. Be humble enough and be honest enough to say when you don't know something. That's one thing I found. People never want to tell you what they don't know. But if you could tell people and communicate, this is my first time doing this. I've done this lots of times, but this little thing right here, I've never really done this before. Could you give me a little bit of guidance? Guess what? We will respect you so much when you can do that. It gives us an attitude that this is someone that I can build with because I can trust them. The one reason why I hire a lot of the same people in front of the camera and behind the camera is because I want to be able to know for some certainty what I'm going to get. It's like that old Forrest Gump, life is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. When I have a new actor that I'm going to work with, or a new crew person I'm going to work with, I don't know what I'm going to get. So a lot of times I use the same people over again because I want to be sure that I can guarantee the results that I'm promising to the people who are counting on me, which is the people putting up the money for the movie, the audience, everything. So that's what's important.
You know, I think most people, what I find is that the thing that you're doing with the school and being on set, I think most people find that really appealing because they get to have hands-on experience. It's like they're learning theory, but they're also learning it in practice. So, is there a way for those students, or just they don't have to be students, but in general, reach out to you to maybe get on one of your productions? Is there an email or social media that you want to share?
Yeah, please go to my Instagram page. That's Greg Carter Nexus. I think it's at Greg Carter, GregCarter Nexus, Nexus. And follow me on Instagram, or either you can follow me on my Facebook page. That's I think that's Facebook, filmmaker Greg Carter. Just search filmmaker Greg Carter. You'll see me. I never age. I look the same way I did for the last.
You know why? It's because you keep using the same picture on your avatar.
No, look at me now. Most people say I look better than the picture I got. I don't age. I don't know what it is. I got
It's
good
that
genes.
avatar from your high school yearbook picture.
Listen, I don't age. What can I say?
So you're like
But no,
the
you can follow me on Facebook or either Instagram. You can send me messages from there. I'm pretty much an open book. I don't really post as much as I used to, but because I get pretty busy. But yeah, definitely follow me, and then I can get information to you as we get ready to gear up. Hopefully, God willing, we'll be back at it with the strikes being resolved before the end of the summer.
Wonderful, wonderful discussion with Greg Carter, my mentor and mentor for future filmmakers. Any last words? I think are we out of time? Is Tanya there? Are we out of time?
I think we're out of time, but I'm just gonna say, finally,
You
shout
want to
out
keep
to
talking?
to my family, my son, my daughter. Congratulations to my daughter, Sierra Denise Carter, who just got engaged yesterday on her birthday. Very happy about that. Also, we got a couple things coming up pretty soon. Hopefully, be back in Houston making movies
And doing
shortly.
that I keep calling it a co-op, but an intern thing. So
Yes,
keep updated with Greg on his social media and see when his next project is and see how you can get on it.
absolutely.
All right. Thank you guys for joining us this Saturday and hope you have a good weekend.
This is Thomas Miles, nephew Tommy from the Steve Harvey Morning Show. As a radio personality, comedian, actor, and producer, I know what type of hard work and dedication it takes to make an impact in the world of arts and entertainment. MPAC Performing Arts Collective, a nonprofit for visual and performing arts, is doing just that. MPAC's mission is to cultivate the interests of visual and performing arts by exposing, educating, and entertaining. MPAC is dedicated to the formation of avenues into the professional world of arts and entertainment through several of its programs, including It's a Wrap, Playhouse Theater, and MPAC Jazz. Through these programs, MPAC has launched film festivals, TV forums, music symposiums, comedy series and showcases, jazz shows, theater productions, acting and comedy workshops, and much, much more. All in an effort to create platforms for emerging talent and create access to industry insiders in an effort for those seeking careers in arts and entertainment to be successful. As a proud member of its advisory board, I would like you to support MPAC as a volunteer or as a donor. Please visit impact-arts.org today.